Hello and welcome to another episode of my podcast, The Pocket Stylist. I am Lisa Talbot, and this is not any old podcast episode. This is episode 200 of the Pocket Stylist podcast, and I'm absolutely thrilled. I can't quite believe it. So what I wanted to do today, we always talk about fashion and style, and we talk about trends and visibility and everything like that. But first of all, I wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory as to where this podcast started and why it started, really. And then I want to go back to where it started, and then I want to give you some hints and tips on how to start. Because if you're feeling a little bit stuck, which is what happened to one of my ladies this week on a call, I thought, right, let's do that. So this podcast started just after lockdown, and I used to sit on the Clubhouse app, which was an audio app which was all about social media, but we used to talk and we dropped in and out of rooms, etc. And one day somebody said to me, "Have you got a podcast, Lisa?" And I was like, "No," because they said, "Because you do love to talk." And I'm like, "Yeah, I could probably relate to that, and so could my family." And I thought, actually, I find chatting and sharing advice and hints and tips a lot easier to talk to you about than I do writing. So yes, I do have my blog, but it takes me a lot of time and a lot of effort to get the words that are in my head out onto my keyboard and into a blog post. So when this person said to me about the podcast, I was like, "Oh, I quite like that idea," because I'm very audio. So I love listening to a podcast. And what's really nice is I put my earphones in, I walk the dog, I do my cleaning, all that type of thing. And I thought this could work. So I kind of went into it with a bit of a plan. And let's do this podcast. Let's share the advice and the hints and the tips, and let's inspire you to kind of get involved in the world if you're feeling a little bit stuck. And it was really interesting. I did have a lot of help in the beginning. I got some great advice from a gentleman called Alex Chisel when we were on Clubhouse. And he said to me, he said, the thing is with a podcast, people start it, but they tend to finish it within 7 episodes. Well, that was like red rag to a bull, because I am really, really competitive. And I thought, I'm getting past 7 episodes. And then I thought, do I do series, and do I do just keep going with the episodes? And it was really interesting because for me as a person, I don't like the break when I'm listening to a podcast. I think, oh, I wish there was more. I want to listen to more. So I kind of made the decision with this podcast to just keep going. And the name came about purely because if you know me and you've seen me on social media, or you're one of my clients, you'll know I'm only 5 foot. And so many ladies have said to me, "Oh, Lisa, I wish I could just put you in my pocket," whether it's my dressing gown pocket in the morning, so you're there to help me with my wardrobe, or whether it's in my pocket when I'm shopping, so you can advise me on the colours and the shapes, etc. So that is where the name, The Pocket Stylist, came about. So that's how it all started. And it has literally just continued over time. The numbers have grown and grown and grown and grown, which is fantastic. We've had some lovely reviews, some wonderful chart success up the podcast charts. And there's still more to come. So today is a very, very special episode for me, because I'm like, wow, somebody said I wouldn't get past 7. Or, the criteria and what people the analytics have always said people struggle past 7. And I was like, I got to 200, which is fantastic. So that brings me really nicely onto, if you start something, first of all, you need to know how to get started. And then secondly, how do you keep it going? And I thought, do you know what? This really relates back to ladies and their wardrobe, and their style and their personal style. So I wanted today to give you some hints and tips on how you can start, how you can get going. Because just like the podcast, when I started it, I didn't really have a clue, to be honest. I didn't know what platform to use. I didn't know how to record it. I didn't know, do we put it on Zoom? Don't we put it on Zoom? And you'll know that I've recently put it back onto Zoom because I didn't in the beginning. So if you are sat there thinking, okay, how do I get started, Lisa? You know, I've listened to you or I've watched you on social media, but how do I get going? Then I want to give you some hints and tips. So the first point for me is, before you even get to your wardrobe, is to think about your style personality. Who are you? And you will have heard me talk about this a lot, but who are you? You know, what do you like? What do you like wearing? What do you look at in a magazine or on the telly and think, oh, she looks gorgeous. I really like that dress. Or I love those shoes she's wearing. What kind of really inspires you that you don't think you feel like you are at the moment? And if you start back at the beginning of, who am I? What do I like? You will start to be able to build on it. So you could be, I'm going to give you the personalities, I think, because I think that will help you. The natural personality, someone who likes things a bit more informal, someone who likes things a bit more relaxed, but they love looking neat and tidy. They don't like looking unkempt, but it's all about the comfortability. You know, what is it going to feel like on? Can I wear it all day and not feel like it's digging in my tummy or it's tight across my back, that type of thing. Then you've got the classic. The classic is heritage, traditional, blocked, coloured, a little bit more structured, much denser fabrics. You think of Kate Middleton and you get that wonderful classic heritage traditional look. Then you've got dramatics. The dramatics are slightly quirky. They like things that are a little bit different. Could be the design line, it could be the colour, it could be the big glasses, something like that. Then you've got the feminines, the beautiful, a little bit more delicate. They love dresses, they love skirts, they love things that's, you know, a little bit more flowy and dreamy. As women, we want to look like women, but some of us don't want to look too feminine. Then you've also got the artistics. Now, the artistics are your wonderful creatives. They will look at London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and go, oh, I'm going to copy that. Whereas the majority of us look at it and go, that's stunning, but I'm going to wait to see what the high street does, what the brands do, and then I'm going to scoop it up and see how I can wear it. So to begin with, you have to think about, who am I? Who am I? Let's start at the beginning. You may have found that, I don't know, and you don't have to be one or the other, you can be a mix, but it might be that 20 years ago you were a natural and now you're a bit more, want to be more of a dramatic, or you've always been a classic because that's what your role does. You know, you want it to be more formal, but you feel that actually I'm now ready to step into the person that I kind of want to be and that I might have known, that I've kind of kept a little bit hidden for a few years, maybe as the kids were growing up, maybe as you were changing jobs, you know, all that type of thing. So start at the beginning, work out who you are, because that's a real telling point. Then you can go into your wardrobe and think, okay, does this wardrobe work for me? Does it have the things in there that actually I really like, that represent me as a person? And if you look at it and think, oh, I'm not sure that's really me, then have a think why. Have a think, is it me? Is it not? And this is where you can start to open up that stuckness that you might be feeling at the moment. And it's never to say that your wardrobe is wrong. It just might not complement you as a person now. You know, the things in your wardrobe, you want to open them up and go, oh, I'm so excited to wear them, rather than, oh, I'm just wearing that on repeat. I'm just, you know, keeping it going all the time because I don't really know what else to do. And I want you to be able to open up that wardrobe and go, okay, that's me, that's not me. You know, I don't really like that. I only wear it because I have to, or because I've got nothing else. So start at the beginning. Think of your personality. Think of what's in your wardrobe. And you might have to be a bit courageous and think, I really don't like that. Let's get rid of it, because that could really, really help you. So what you will do is you'll start to look at your wardrobe in a different light. You can then start to look at it and think, do you know what? I am missing A, B, C, D. And then you can start to form a little bit of a list, as in, what could I really do with, and for example, this summer, but that really reflects me, but works for my lifestyle. It works for my busy working schedule because I'm 3 days at home and I'm 2 days in the office, or I'm traveling to Florida for work for a big conference, or I'm in central London in the middle of May and I've got a massive presentation to do. Have I got anything in that wardrobe? And what you start to think about is this wardrobe working for me? So not only has it got to work for your personality and who you are, but it's got to work for what you do and where you are. So whether you're at home and whether you're in the office, or whether you're picking up school, children because they're still at school, or you're working with a different timetable because you've got children that are at university and they're coming back, or they live away and they come back and you go and see them, and all that type of thing. So this is how you can start to basically, this is where you start. Then very much like the podcast, you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep the momentum going. And I always say that whatever we do in life sometimes, especially like in my business or in what you're doing, especially with your wardrobe, let's think about it like that. Think of it as a ball. And if you gradually give it a little push every day, it will keep rolling. So you do something with it every single day. It could be that you create a different outfit, something a little bit different, combination that you haven't worn before. It could be that you add a different necklace in, or you actually go and buy a necklace that you don't have. So you keep this ball rolling and the momentum keeps going. And suddenly it becomes a lot easier because the ball is rolling, the momentum is going. So that's definitely something to think about. So very much like the podcast, start at the beginning. You've got you've got 200 episodes of advice on the podcast if you want to go back and do that. You've got advice from me with regards to my social media, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Instagram. There's always hints and tips coming up there. But, take advice from others, take advice from the experts, because they can really help you get this ball moving, which is fantastic. Then think about, who you are, what your wardrobe's doing. Does it look like you? Does it represent you? Does it work for your lifestyle? And then work out what is missing. Is it this summer a beautiful pair of tailored shorts? Is it some gorgeous shoes that could actually allow that dress to work? Then the ball is rolling and the momentum is going, and actually it becomes easier. So if I think about when I started the podcast, gosh, it was, what platform do I put it on? How do I record it? What topics do I come up with? Now I've done it for so long, it's really easy. And that's the point I want you to get to with your wardrobe. But sometimes you have to start at the beginning to start getting that ball moving. So I didn't want this podcast to be a long one today, but it's such a celebration of where the podcast has come from and the wonderful, wonderful listeners that I have, because the listening numbers have grown and grown and grown. And I get some wonderful, wonderful comments. And that means so much to me, because it means that the advice we're giving and sharing is inspiring you. And sometimes I'll have somebody completely out of the blue say, "Oh, well, I was listening to your podcast," and I'm like, "Oh, were you? That's fantastic." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I got told about it by a friend, etc." So I'm super, super pleased. Honestly, I couldn't do it without knowing that you're all listening. So if you are feeling a little bit stuck, think about what we've just spoken about. This midlife style retreat, there are a couple of tickets still available, which is absolutely fantastic. If you're still looking to come, 8th of May, there is still time. It's in Windsor. I do know one of the sponsors, Sarah Harron, has actually offered up 2 tickets. So if you head over to her socials, you might get a chance to actually enter the prize draw to win 2 tickets to come to the Star Retreat. But thank you all for listening. I massively, massively appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And again, if there's any topics you want me to cover moving forward, just send me a message, because obviously I've got them in my head, but working for the next few episodes. I've got a wonderful episode coming up actually with Rachel Simpson's shoes. But yeah, there's lots and lots you can share with me, and I will do what I can to actually incorporate the topic into the podcast. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so, so much for listening. And I am off to celebrate the 200th episode of the podcast, The Pocket Stylist. Bye-bye.